Okay, folks, buckle up, because tonight we're asking a question that sounds impossible. What if CERN didn't just bend time? What if it changed reality itself? Get ready for a wild ride. 4 days ago, Monday the 29th of June 2026, the most powerful machine ever built by human hands was switched off. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN. 27-kilometer ring of superconducting magnets firing protons at nearly the speed of light is going dark for years. They say it's just routine maintenance. They say it's just an upgrade. Long shutdown number 3. But some people have been watching the data coming out of that machine very carefully, and they believe something else is going on. Something that has nothing to do with maintenance, something to do with time and reality itself. Okay, so right out of the gate, that's a bold claim, right? Something to do with time and reality. I know, but stick with me here, because this isn't just conspiracy speculation. We're going to look at actual published physics papers, actual experiments, and actual data gaps that CERN themselves have acknowledged. And by the end of this, you might be looking at that machine in Switzerland very differently. And yes, the shutdown is real, it's already happened, but the timing is interesting. The time machine paper that physics tried to forget. In 2007, a year before the LHC was even operational, two physicists named Irina Arefyeva and Igor Volovich published a paper with a title that should have made headlines everywhere. The title was simple: Time Machine at the LHC. Now, not time machine theory, not hypothetical considerations, just time machine at the LHC. The paper appeared on Archive, the same preprint server where most physics research is first shared. And it wasn't published by bloggers or conspiracy theorists. Arefyeva and Volovich are mathematical physicists at the Steklov Mathematical Institute in Moscow. Now, their work focuses on quantum gravity and string theory, the very foundations of how reality operates at its smallest scale. What they proposed was this: if quantum gravity operates at the TeV energy scale, which is exactly the energy scale the LHC was built to explore, then proton-proton collisions at the LHC could theoretically create what physicists call closed timelike curves. A closed timelike curve is not a metaphor. It's a mathematical solution to Einstein's field equations. It's a path through space-time that loops back on itself. In plain language, it's a time machine. Not a device with a dial and a lever, but a natural consequence of extreme energy concentrated in a tiny space. Now, the paper argued that the probability of producing these curves would be comparable to the probability of producing microscopic black holes at the LHC. And here's the part that should make you pause. The physics community did not dismiss this paper. They did not laugh at it. They engaged with it seriously enough to write response papers, to debate it in journals, to discuss whether the LHC might inadvertently produce conditions where causality itself breaks down. And then, quietly, the conversation faded out. The LHC turned on in 2008. The paper got buried under thousands of other publications, but it was never retracted. It was never disproven. It just went away. So let me get this straight. Two legit physicists published a paper saying the machine we're about to turn on might create time loops. And the response from the scientific community was basically, interesting, let's discuss. And then everyone just moved on. And that's like someone saying, hey, this oven might open a portal. And then the response being, yeah, let's keep an eye on that while you proceed to bake the cake. Now, I'm not saying they built a time machine. I'm saying nobody seemed particularly worried that they might have. And that is the weird part. When particles remember the future. To understand why the time machine paper wasn't dismissed outright, you need to understand something about quantum physics that most people find deeply uncomfortable. In the quantum world, the arrow of time, the rule that says effects follow causes, that the past is fixed and the future is open, doesn't always apply. In 1978, the physicist John Wheeler proposed a thought experiment that has since been experimentally confirmed multiple times. It's called the delayed choice experiment. And here's what it shows. A particle can behave as if its future was already decided. And more specifically, a measurement you make now can determine how a particle behaved in the past. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. The particle's past behavior literally changes based on a choice you haven't made yet. Now, this isn't fringe science. This is textbook quantum mechanics. It's been verified in labs around the world. And it raises a question that has haunted physics for decades. If a single particle can be influenced by its own future, what happens when you scale it up? Now, the LHC doesn't collide single particles. It collides trillions of protons at energies that haven't existed naturally since the Big Bang. 13 tera-electron volts. Now that's an almost meaningless number to most of us, but in physics terms, it's the energy of creation itself. The conditions that existed in the first fraction of a second after the universe began. So, here's the uncomfortable thought. If retrocausality, the phenomenon where the future influences the past, is real at the quantum scale, and you build a machine that concentrates unprecedented energy into quantum scale events, are you amplifying that effect? Are you creating conditions where the future can leak into the past? Not for a single particle, but for reality itself? Some researchers believe the answer is yes, and they believe the evidence is already there, hiding in the data. I want to be really clear about something here. The delayed choice experiment is not controversial. It's not one scientist's theory. It's been done repeatedly with real particles, real detectors, real results. The future genuinely appears to influence the past at the quantum level. That's just a fact of physics. So, when we start asking what does the LHC do with that fact, we're not in conspiracy territory yet. We're in following the implications of established science to their logical, terrifying conclusion territory, which honestly is where all the best questions live, right on the edge. The whistleblowers and the missing data. If you spend enough time in the forums and comment sections where CERN watchers gather, you start to notice some patterns. Accounts from people describing themselves as former contractors, technicians, data analysts, people who claim to have worked inside CERN facilities and seen things they weren't supposed to see. Now, let's be clear. These accounts are unverified. They could be fabricated. They could be misinterpretations of routine technical issues. But they are consistent in a way that is worth noting. Now, several of these accounts describe the same phenomenon. Instruments recording collision data with timestamps that do not align. Results appearing in the data stream slightly before the collision that should have produced them. Not minutes before, fractions of a second, but consistently. Enough that, according to these accounts, protocols had to be developed to handle pre-arrival data. Then there's the official CERN side. Now, CERN has, on multiple occasions, acknowledged that certain collision datasets have been incomplete or required recalculation. The official explanation is always the same: detector calibration issues, software bugs, hardware limitations. And those are real problems that genuinely occur in particle physics. Nobody's disputing that. But the frequency is interesting. The specific nature of the missing data is interesting too. It's not random noise or equipment failure patterns. It tends to involve the highest energy collisions, the ones where, if the Arefeeva-Volovich paper were correct, something unusual might be most likely to occur. One former technician posting anonymously described it this way: the data doesn't just go missing. It goes missing in a very specific way, at a very specific moment, and then it comes back, slightly different. He offered no proof. He vanished from the forums shortly after. But his description matches something that physicists have a name for: data that has been retrocausally modified, information that changed because the event it described was influenced by something that hadn't happened yet. Okay, I've got to be honest, that anonymous forum guy who posted once and then vanished, well, that's classic internet myth-making 101, and I'm aware of that. Trust me, bro, I worked at CERN. It's not exactly peer review. But here is what I find genuinely interesting. CERN has acknowledged data gaps. That part's real. They published papers about incomplete datasets. So the question isn't, are there missing data? That's confirmed. The question is, why is it missing? And the official explanations, while plausible, never seem to fully satisfy the people who dig into the details. The 2012 Higgs Anomaly. In July 2012, CERN held a press conference that was watched by physicists around the world. They announced the discovery of the Higgs boson, the particle that gives mass to everything in the universe. It was called the greatest scientific achievement of the century. Peter Higgs, the man who predicted the particle decades earlier, was in the audience, visibly moved. But here's something that didn't make the headlines. The Higgs discovery announcement was delayed, not by days, by months, and the official reason was data verification. CERN needed to be certain. And that's completely reasonable when you're making a claim of this magnitude. Nobody disputed the need for caution. But there were murmurs. In the physics community, people whispered about the excess events, data points that didn't fit the Higgs pattern. The standard narrative is that these were statistical noise, background fluctuations that meant nothing. But some researchers noted that the excess events clustered around a very specific energy range, a range that, coincidentally, overlaps with the theoretical predictions for certain exotic particles. Particles that don't follow the forward arrow of time. Higgs singlets are a hypothetical particle proposed in the extensions of the Standard Model. Now, if they exist, they would have a unique property. They could travel through time, not metaphorically. They would be their own antiparticle, moving backward through the temporal dimension. And the energy range where the excess events clustered is exactly where Higgs singlets would be expected to appear. CERN never addressed the excess events in detail. They were noted in internal discussions, mentioned briefly in some papers, and then quietly set aside as the Higgs discovery dominated the news cycle. And the machine kept running, the collisions continued, and the data from those excess events remains, to this day, one of the least discussed aspects of the most celebrated physics discovery of our lifetime. So, they found the Higgs. Everyone cheered. Peter Higgs cried. Beautiful moment. But in the background, there were these weird little data points that didn't fit, hovering at an energy range that theoretically corresponds to particles that travel through time. And everyone just shrugged? Probably nothing. Let's focus on the good news. Now, I'm not saying CERN found a time-traveling particle in 2012 and covered it up. I'm saying they found something they couldn't explain, and they chose not to talk about it. And in science, what you choose not to talk about is sometimes more revealing than what you publish. The Mandela Effect timeline. Now, here's where the ground beneath our feet gets uncertain. The term Mandela Effect was coined in 2009 by Fiona Broome, a paranormal researcher who noticed that she, along with thousands of other people, shared a vivid, detailed memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. He didn't. He was released in 1990 and became president of South Africa. But the memory was so widespread, so specific, so deeply felt that Broome gave it a name. Now, look at the timeline. The LHC's first proton beams circulated in September 2008. The first actual collisions happened in November 2009. The term Mandela Effect was coined that same year. Coincidence? Maybe. The internet was growing. Mass communication was accelerating. People were sharing experiences they'd previously kept private. That's the skeptical explanation, and it's got some merit. But then look at 2015. In 2015, the LHC restarted after a 2-year shutdown with nearly double its previous energy, 13 TeV, up from 7 to 8 TeV. And 2015 is the year that many in the Mandela Effect community point to as when things accelerated. New effects appeared, existing ones intensified. The community grew rapidly. People who had never heard of the Mandela Effect suddenly started noticing that their memories didn't match reality. And I can personally attest to this myself. It was around this time that I suddenly noticed 2 Mandela effects. C-3PO's silver leg. Look, it was all gold. I saw the original movie in the theatre. I had the action figure and the comics, all gold. And Dolly's braces in James Bond Moonraker. She wore braces. I watched it in the theatre when it was released, and the audience laughed when she smiled at Jaws because they both had metal teeth. That was the whole point of the joke. Anyway, some theorists have proposed what they call reality bleed. The idea that sustained high-energy collisions at CERN don't just study particles, but subtly alter the quantum field of reality itself. Not dramatically, not in ways you'd notice immediately, but in small, accumulating micro shifts. A word changes here, a logo shifts there. A memory doesn't quite match the record. Is this science? No, it is speculation. But it's speculation built on a timeline that, when you lay it all out, raises genuine questions about correlation. And the people asking these questions aren't random cranks. They are millions of people who feel at a gut level that something about reality shifted in ways they can't quite articulate. Okay, I'll be the first to say it. Correlation is not causation. Mandela Effect getting popular at the same time CERN turned on is not proof of anything. The internet existing is probably a bigger factor. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. If reality did shift, how would we know? That's not a joke. If the past changed, our memories of it would change too. Unless they didn't, unless some people kept the old memories while reality updated around them. And that essentially is what the Mandela Effect claims to be. Residual memories from a version of reality that no longer exists. Now, I'm not saying I believe it. I'm saying I can't fully dismiss it. Now, if you haven't watched Netflix's Umbrella Academy, check it out. The silence and the dance. So, the machine has been switched off for the third time since 2008, long shutdown number 3. The magnets are being warmed from their operating temperature of 1.9 Kelvin, colder than deep space, to room temperature. The beams have stopped, the collisions have ceased. Did you notice anything? Did you feel anything? And for the next several years, the most powerful scientific instrument ever built will sit in silence. Which raises a question that nobody in the mainstream is asking. If the LHC was doing something to the fabric of reality, even something subtle, even something unmeasurable by conventional instruments, what happens when it stops? Some theorists suggest a shutdown could stabilize reality. If the collisions were creating micro-instabilities in causality, removing the source of those instabilities would allow reality to settle back into its natural state. New Mandela effects would stop, the timeline would solidify. Now, others suggest the absolute opposite, that the damage, if any, is cumulative and irreversible, that you can't unring a bell, even a quantum one, that turning off the machine doesn't undo whatever was done, it just means we stop adding to it. And then there's the third possibility, the one that sits in the back of your mind when you stand in front of CERN's campus and see the statue of Shiva Nataraja, the lord of time and cycles, not just of destruction, but the endless dance of creation and annihilation. The dance doesn't stop because the music stops. The dance continues whether the machine runs or not. Outside CERN's headquarters, Shiva stands in bronze, frozen mid-dance, forearms spread wide, foot crushing the demon of ignorance, the god of time, watching over a machine that just went dark. If something was started that we don't fully understand, does switching off the power really stop it? The Shiva statue is real. You can look it up. It was a gift from India in 2004, and it stands right there on CERN's campus. The god of time and cosmic cycles, watching over a machine that smashes particles to recreate the moment of creation. Whether you believe in Hindu cosmology or not, the symbolism is a lot. And now the machine is off, the dance continues. That's either very comforting or very terrifying, depending on how you look at it. I genuinely don't know which, but I know that the statue has been there this whole time watching, and now the machine is quiet and the dance hasn't stopped. The machine that makes this one look like a toy. While everyone is focused on the LHC shutting down, CERN is already building what comes next. It's called the Future Circular Collider, the FCC, and it makes the LHC look like a science fair project. The LHC's main ring is 27 kilometers in circumference. The FCC would be 91 kilometers. That's a tunnel so large it would pass under 3 different countries. Its collision energy would be roughly 3 times what the LHC achieved at its peak. Now, construction alone would take until at least 2040. Operations wouldn't begin until the mid-2040s. By the time it's running, most of the people watching this video will be decades older. But here's what should give you pause. The scientific justification for the FCC explicitly includes searching for phenomena that the LHC couldn't fully explore. Things like dark matter particles, extra dimensions, and, if you read between the lines of the technical documents, the same TeV-scale quantum gravity effects that Arifeva and Volovich were talking about in 2007. The same effects that could theoretically produce closed timelike curves. If the LHC might have created conditions where causality becomes unstable, what will a machine 3 times more powerful do? Nobody's asking that question out loud. The official FCC documentation talks about new physics and beyond the standard model in the dry, careful language that physicists use. But if you know what to look for, the implications are right there, written in the margins of reports that most people will never read. The LHC is going silent, but the next machine is already being planned, and by the time it turns on, whatever the LHC may or may not have started will have had 2 decades to settle into the fabric of reality. The question is, when the FCC starts colliding particles at energies we've never attempted before, will we even notice if something changes? Or will we just adapt, the way we've adapted to every other change we can't explain? Well, a 91-kilometer particle collider, 3 countries, 3 times the power. I don't know about you, but when someone says we're building a bigger version of the machine that might have been messing with time, my first question is why? And the answer is always to study new physics, which is what they said about the last one and the one before that. At what point do we stop and ask, are we sure we want to keep turning these things on? Because every time we build a bigger one, we find something we didn't expect. And the things we keep not expecting are getting stranger. The question you didn't know you were waiting for. At the beginning of this video, I asked you something. You probably didn't notice it. It was buried in the hook, just a throwaway line, something to do with time and reality itself. But here's the question I was really asking, the one that's been sitting underneath every section of this episode. If something went wrong with time at CERN, how would we know? Think about it. If reality shifted, if the past changed, if the timeline was altered, our memories would change too. The only evidence would be a collective global feeling that something isn't feeling right. A sense that things used to be different, that the world doesn't quite match what we remember. That's the Mandela Effect. And if the LHC really did create conditions where causality became unstable, even briefly, even subtly, then the question isn't whether reality changed. The question is whether we'd even be able to tell. Or whether we just carry on, with new memories in our heads and a vague, persistent feeling that something, somewhere, feels different. The machine is off now, the dance continues, and the next machine is coming. Yeah, how would we know? It's been sitting underneath everything we've talked about. But the time machine paper, the missing data, the Higgs anomaly, the Mandela timeline, they all point to the same uncomfortable possibility that if reality was altered, we might not have the tools to detect it because we're inside it. We're part of the system that changed. That's the thing about CERN that genuinely unsettles me. Not the conspiracy theories, not the whistleblowers. It's the fact that if they did accidentally crack open causality, we might never, ever know. And that's a thought that doesn't go away when you turn off the machine. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And thank you to everyone who subscribed. We're only about 500 away from 100,000 subscribers, which would be a massive milestone for the channel. So thank you all very much. And I've just started a second channel, Chronicles of the Drift. So please stop by and check it out. Link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel further, I've got Patreon and YouTube memberships. Again, links in the description below. Also, don't forget to check out the Mysteria Archive podcast, available on the YouTube Music app. Okay, my friends, be safe, and until next time, stay curious.